I welcome everyone to Expreneur Digital and Bridget's workshop. Everybody knows why they're here, which is really great. It's nice to see all your faces this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for Expreneur for organizing this, and thank you all for taking the time, because I know you all have a lot on, and I really appreciate that you are here today, and I really hope that I can offer something of value. So my goal for the day, the hour, is that by the time you leave, we'll have come down to something really meaningful in terms of what your brand story is. I think I've had a look at all your websites and social media, and I think you each have something really special to offer. And what I want to do is try to get down to the kernel of that so that it's easier for you to communicate that to anyone who comes to your website. So what we're doing today is brand story, but I just wanted to spend a minute talking about what brand is. So I think this was easier in the olden days when we were able to interact with people and everything wasn't so digital, because your brand was your store or your physical presence, and maybe a business card, and maybe a website and some social media. These days, it's every moment that someone interacts with your brand. So Coca-Cola was ahead of the curve, and in 1915, they commissioned someone to create a Coke bottle, a glass bottle that was smashable. So what they wanted was, if that bottle was broken into 100 pieces, even if someone found just one piece of the bottle, they would know that it was a Coke bottle. And that's our goal with brand, is to make your brand smashable. So that means if someone comes to your website, or they see an ad somewhere, a Google ad, or they see a clip of a video, or they see an Instagram photo, or they see a business card, or they see your product itself, or someone tells them about your product, all of that comes into it. And you want all of that to have a cohesive story and a cohesive message throughout it. And what's so tricky about brand is that it's not just the physical stuff. So it's all the things you have control over. It's your website and your social media and your printed materials and the product itself or the experience itself. But it's also the stories that people tell about your brand. And it's the experiences they have and the reviews that they leave. And it might be reviews on your site, but it also might be reviews somewhere else. And so what we want to do is make it as easy as possible for all those people to be telling the same story. This is especially important in the time of COVID, because we don't have the time that we used to have. So it's not that someone can like wander into your store or come to your place of work and you can slowly kind of coax them over into your story. We have such a short amount of time that we need to grab people's attention, and we need to tell them immediately what it is that we offer and why that's special. So I'm going to tell you very briefly what I do, because I want the focus to be on you guys, but just so that you know that I do actually know what I'm doing. So my name is Bridget McNulty, as we've said, and I am a content strategist for a number of different companies, and I am the co-founder of Sweet Life Diabetes Community, which is South Africa's largest online diabetes community. And we have a website with a bunch of verified information from doctors. We started in 2011, so we've been around for a while, and a Facebook page, Diabetic South Africans, which is the kind of the core of the online community. And I also co-founded Now Novel, which is an online novel writing process, like a workshop that leads you through how to write your first novel. And I'm the co-founder of the Diabetes Alliance, which is the first time that all the organizations, associations, and companies working in diabetes in South Africa came together to the same table to all work together and collaborate on diabetes. The co-founding stuff is fascinating, because it took us, so we started Sweet Life in 2011 as a magazine, because I have a magazine background and I'm a published author. That's how I launched my career. I wrote a novel. Then I started working in magazines, and then we created this magazine, Sweet Life, that was sent out 4 times a year for free around the country. We did 15,000 copies, and we wanted it to be free so that people could get the information that they needed. And then we moved online after 5 years. We moved everything online because the laws changed and pharmaceuticals weren't allowed advertisements anymore. And I was devastated when we moved it online. And then I soon realized that actually that was where the gold lay, because the trouble with a printed product is that we would tell people stuff, but we wouldn't be able to converse with them. Whereas now that we have this vibrant online community, we know exactly what people want because they're asking us for it every day. But it was only when we became a non-profit organization, which was the beginning of last year. We're an NPO and a PBO, which is a public benefit organization. And that's when everything clicked. And I realized only after all those years, so it was 5 years of magazine, then like 3 years of being an online hub of information, but it's only when we became a nonprofit that everything clicked into place. And it's because other people knew how to tell our story. So before that, I knew what our story was. Sweet Life's an inspiring place for people to get the information and support they need to live a healthy, happy life with diabetes. But other people didn't know who we were. So first we were a magazine, and then we were a site. And so we were like, we had sponsorship, but they didn't know where we fit. And as soon as we became a nonprofit organization, everything clicked into place. They were like, oh, now we know who you are. Other people started telling our story for us, and our influence took off. Now we work with the National Department of Health. They are very happy to work with us. They know where we fit. They can tell our story too. The tipping point for us was when we hit that story. And so that's what I really want to try and get for you today. And I know that the various companies who are here are at different stages of development, and that's great because hopefully we'll be able to learn from each other. And the last thing I want to say is about the attention economy. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the attention economy. It's essentially when we had extra time, many years ago it seems, and brands could grab our attention. And I use the word grab very consciously because people were able to like wrestle our attention away from us. So the brands that won that were Google, Facebook, Twitter, Netflix, the big brands, because they had the budget to say, choose us, use us, here we are. We're now past the attention economy. We're all maxed out on attention. None of us have any space left for anyone or anything. Netflix has famously said that their top competitor is sleep, which is terrifying. So we're past the point where you could just get a bigger ad or more ads or a noisier online presence. What we've moved into now is the affection economy, which is much better. So it means that you have to tell a story that will convince people that they love your brand. And then they'll talk about it because we're all still talking to each other. We're still communicating. And so if we can find a way to tell your brand so that people feel affection towards it, that is the goal. And that's my goal today. So here's what I want to do. I managed to do it in the time allocated to me. So I'm going to switch over to each of your brands. And if each of you could just tell me, what I'm really trying to get at is what makes your brand special, what sets you apart, why you think it's unique. And then I'm going to tell you some impressions of what I had looking at your online presence and what I would like to see. And I'd like us to get to a point where it's clear what your brand story is. We have like less than 10 minutes each, so it's going to be pretty speedy, but let's try our best. We're going to start with Ava Innes. Oh, one more thing. I'm almost certainly going to mispronounce some of the names because I'm in South Africa. So my apologies in advance if that happens. Okay. Ava Innes, Joan, over to you.
Hi, I'm Joan Johnston. I'm the founder of Ava Innes. Ava Innes was launched in September 19, and we're passionate about sleep, cashmere, and sustainability. We offer a totally unique product. We use a byproduct of the cashmere industry to make the most beautiful duvets, which are encased in organic cotton, and they're made in the UK. Our customers tell us they sleep better under them. We also have a range of other natural-based fibre products, including wool pillows, but the whole offering is all about sleep and cashmere and the sustainable element of what we do.
Great. So now when I was looking at your website, my first question was, I don't know what guard hair is. Do other people know what guard hair is? Is that a common thing?
Yes, we do have an explanation on it. It's the long-haired fibre from the cashmere goat.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure if that was a South African thing.
So it's 70% of the fleece that is removed every year.
Okay, wonderful. So when I looked at your site, I think there's so many things that you've done really well and set up really well. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to care about most. So somewhere on the material that you sent through, you said sleep better, sleep natural, sleep under cashmere. And that made perfect sense to me because then I could tell that what counts most was the sleeping part. When I look at what you've got now, there's like a luxury element, there's a deep sleep element, and then there's the quality natural materials element. And then there's a bit about supporting local textiles. And so I wasn't sure, where do you feel the emphasis is?
Certainly,
if you have to choose one.
Yeah, sleep. It's all about sleep.
Okay. So then to me, we want to get away from because so everyone has different pain points, right? And there's different things that your product can fix. In terms of pain, what your product is fixing here is it's offering me a luxury item. So it's because I need to treat myself. It's offering me a sleep thing, which is huge, and I think we need to focus on that more. And then there's also a supporting local textile sustainable element, which is making me feel better about myself because I'm supporting local and I'm making sure things are sustainable. But if you can focus specifically on the pain point of sleep, the way that will change things is that right from the beginning, you're talking about sleep. So especially above the fold. So I'm going to be talking about the above the fold experience quite a lot. I'm just going to explain it in case you don't know. So the goal with websites is to make sure that everything before you have to scroll, which is above the fold, is the most important stuff. So if someone comes to your site and that's all they see is the image or the intro text and the beginning of your site, before you have to scroll further, they must get a really good idea of what it is that you offer that can help that pain point. Yeah. So Ava Innes has got something beautiful here because all of us want to sleep better. And I saw when I scrolled all the way down, there was a testimonial that said something about my husband's a hot sleeper and I'm a cold sleeper and we've never been able to have a duvet that works for both of us, but this somehow does. That stuff is gold. You want to be telling that story because so many people, I mean, I've got that pain point. My husband throws things off on top of me and then I've got double layers. And then if you can target the fact that this is the perfect duvet, no matter who you are, that is like, what a gift. That seems almost magical to me. And you said something, again, it was like maybe halfway down the page, you said something about how it breathes while you sleep. And that is such a beautiful image too, because when you say to me natural fiber, I kind of know what you're talking about. Like I have some impressions, but if you say to me, you're sleeping natural and it breathes while you sleep, that immediately gives me a feeling of relief and makes me think like, oh, imagine how lovely that would be for something to breathe while I sleep. Mm-hmm. So if I'm just going to be bossy. I guess that's what I'm here for, is to be bossy. So if I were you, I would focus strongly on the sleep element. But in order to solve the pain, you have to highlight the pain. So right at the top, I would be saying like, do you struggle to sleep at night because you can't find the right temperature? Do you wish there was a duvet that would work for you and your partner? Is there something that could breathe while you sleep because it's made from the finest natural materials? That's what you want to highlight. And then in terms of, I know you've got the 3 words at the top, the sleep cashmere sustainable. That confused me. But your sleep better, sleep natural, sleep under cashmere didn't confuse me, because that's telling me that the sleep, which is all about me, is the most important part. And sleep better, who's going to say no to that? And sleep natural, who would want to say no to that? It's obviously going to be, no one's going to choose sleep artificial. And sleeping under cashmere, that brings up the luxury element. But why that works better than what you have is that it's making me feel it. So it's showing me the benefits rather than telling me the benefits. Yeah. So if you tell me sustainable, I'm like, okay, I should care about sustainable. If you tell me sleep natural, I can feel why that would be different. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. The challenge for us is there are so many benefits to this product. And when we started out, we actually started around driven by sustainability, but actually realized through the users' feedback that it was all about sleep at the end of the day. So the timing for this, and we're actually working behind the scenes. Next week, the site will be different. So we've all
fantastic
process, and that's great. Your feedback is really helping with
awesome. You know, I think people care about sustainability, but the trouble is we're so exhausted by it. Yes. Everyone is always, it's one more thing for us to do, right? It's like one more thing we have to care about. Whereas if you can offer a solution, if you can make my life easier, oh, that's just such a joy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm worried about time, so I'm going to keep going.
Okay,
but at the end, so ideally at the end, we hopefully will have time for more questions, I hope, because this feels very quick. Okay, next we've got the Ale Whiskey Academy. Did I say it right?
Yes, hello. Good morning, everybody. I'm Rachel McNeil from the Isle of Islay, obviously, and I have the Isle of Whiskey Academy. We provide comprehensive 5-star whiskey education in the form of residential courses where you can come to Isla, and we're also setting up an online course, the likes of which has never been seen before. We provide we build a community. So people that come to our school, they become friends. One of our lines is leave here having made friends, not contacts. And
that's lovely.
Thank you. And the line for the Whisky Affinity, the online course, is a Scotch in context, because we don't want people just to drink whisky in isolation and talk about what's in the glass. We want them to know why it's like that, and to share the culture of Scotland and how that filters in and gives you the dram. But it's also how Scotch whisky industry is connected out to the bigger world. So, you know, for instance, casks come from Kentucky, so we're connected to Kentucky. We get sherry casks from Jerez, so we're connected there. And then everybody in the world drinks whisky. So there's a lot going on.
Lovely. So what I experienced when I came to the website, there is a lot going on, and it's telling you to go. I didn't know where to go. That was my first impression. I came to the website and I had to make too many decisions too quickly, because you had education, tours, hospitality, whiskey for girls. Then you had to click off to watch a mini video. And what I really wanted, once I read further, I found things like welcome to the locals. Is it Isla or Isla?
Isla.
So when I went further, it said, welcome to the locals, Isla. I love that you started with malts and magic from Isla and beyond. That got me feeling kind of evocative about it. What I would love is, as you said here, you leave making friends, not contacts. That should be way up at the top. And what I really wanted was for you to kind of lure me in with the promise of a secret club, which I think is what you're doing, because you're saying that, like, once you come, we'll give you all this information. You'll be connected to other people from around the world. You'll have this deep understanding of whiskey, so that it's not just having a drink. It's like being able to tell the story and bring all the magic of what went into the whiskey into every glass. That feels like a superpower to me. And what I like about what you have is you've almost got all the ingredients set up for it to feel like a secret club, but it doesn't yet. At the moment, it feels like a brochure, and it's saying, you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do this. What I really wanted was to feel like it was a community, like to feel like it was, and a community that I personally was invited to join. Okay. I think the way you do that is by right up at the top, talking about that stuff, talking about the fact that this isn't about making contacts, and it's about making connections to people. It's about telling the stories behind every sip of whiskey. Like, that stuff is so evocative and rich. And then even using as simple words as we invite you to join us, and making it seem that if someone has a passion for whiskey, this is like, it's got to be on their bucket list. Like, they have got to come here, because this will teach you the real depth and breadth of whiskey. And I think if you can bring that right up, then it's fine if you go into, do you want to learn more? Then that's where you can talk about the online course. That could be the education stuff. Would you like to come on a tour? What you can explain more about whiskey for girls. Like, that's where you can get more in depth, but try to encapsulate at the beginning the feeling of what you offer, so that then when you split off into it afterwards, it will make more sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. And also, it's to think about them, because I thought it was very interesting when you were speaking. So they learn, but we teach. So if they're reading it, it needs to be, use the word learn, because because you said it's about me, and I thought, and I wrote that because I was like that. It's, you've got to think of them all the time. So I've learned that's a good thing. That.
And to me, it's almost taking that one step further. Who will they be when they leave your course, or when they leave having been part of your experience and part of your secret club? What are they taking back to their friends? Because to me, that would be a huge thing. I know nothing about whiskey. I came on your course And then afterwards, I'm sitting around the fire with some friends and I pull out a bottle of whiskey and I can tell stories about it. And I can tell where the barrels came from. And people are like, oh, there's notes of this and that. And you can say, well, do you know why? There's like, it makes you a much more interesting person. And that's also kind of fun to highlight. Like, if you need, people are specialists in all sort of things, but this is something that would be so fun to be a specialist in. And then you're part of this secret worldwide club that is like a whiskey nerd, because you can tell all these things. Like, there's a lot of very rich community stuff that you could highlight there.
Okay. Oh my God, yes, okay.
And you've got it all. It's all there. And especially with the online course, that's even more of an invitation to a secret club, because it really is opening it up to anyone. It's not only people who can fly to you, it's anyone can be part of the secret club. But there's also something about, I mean, we all want to be in a secret club. So there's something about making it kind of exclusive.
Okay.
That makes sense. Sorry. It's like an 8-minute injection.
That's great. I know, because when they leave, what happens is they become friends with each other. So even, you know, so we create this, because they don't stay in hotels, they stay in self-catering. So I put them together, and then I look at the emails to see who'll match, and then friends with each other that they've met.
That's also wonderful though to mention, because some people might be feeling anxious about becoming and meeting strangers. So if you say that, like, you're carefully paired with people with similar interests or something like that, I think that's very valuable to say.
Okay.
And then throw them all. Have you got a Facebook group or a Facebook page?
Yes, I've got a Facebook group, and if you go on the course, you become a member. It's called the
That's perfect.
Yes, and also if you join the online course, you get automatically you're invited to join the.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Group.
Yeah, Facebook's very helpful for secret clubs. Okay, I'm going to move on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Creative, thank you. Orkney Creative Hub and the Loom Room. Hi, wait, you got your mute on. Both of you got to unmute yourself.
Yes, just waiting to be unmuted. Hello, everybody. Yes, Orkney Creative Hub here. We have developed over 10 years now, supporting artists and makers throughout the Orkney Isles. Starting as a retail shop for artist materials, the only one in Orkney, and developing that through workshops where people can learn individual heritage skills, knitting and crochet and weaving, as well as the arts side of things. We've then moved on through providing a gallery, and recently we've been able to expand even further. So we have affordable artist studios to rent. We're just starting up a new framing business, and most recently was setting up the Loom Room. And my colleague India started with us as a Highlands and Islands graduate placement to establish and reawaken weaving in Orkney. And we've now been working with college to access their looms so that we can offer a wide weaving experience to both our local community and to visitors. And I think our problem is that we are all things to all people. So how do we tell one story from this?
Do you want to add anything, India?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's the first. Only that so I run the Loom Room, and it's just written down that we're a dedicated weaving studio, and we are the only one in Orkney, and we offer traditional sort of hand weaving skills with the aim of developing education and a community in textiles.
Great. So that Loom Room Instagram is solid gold. There's actually now a Loom Room Instagram, solid gold. And I think the Orkney Creative Hub, when I looked at the site, it looks so helpful. It's like super helpful, very practical, very exciting. but there's no voice. So the thing I feel missing, there's such beautiful work. Like even as I scroll down, I was so impressed with the variety and breadth of the work, but I didn't feel connected to it. I felt like a visitor. So really all you need is to inject a human voice in there, welcoming people in, explaining who it's for, and explaining why I want to belong. So you even said it when you were talking, it's reawakening, weaving in Orkney, it's providing what you're doing. You're already doing what you need to be doing. You just need to tell us that you're doing it. Because I'm sure as soon as people come to Orkney Creative Hub or to the Loom Room, they get it as soon as they walk in. Obviously, how could you not get it? Oh, they'll like feel that sense of, oh, I found my people and look at all the things they can offer me. And this is such a creative home for me. And the website isn't yet reflecting that, because the website just is kind of a catalog of the services that you offer. Whereas what you wanted to do is really feel that sense of when someone walks in. So how you do that is you put a human behind it. So you can choose one of you as the human, or like you don't have to say like, hi, this is my name, but you want there to be, as soon as you get to the website, you want there to be a person saying, we're so happy you're here. This is what we do. This is what we're trying to do. This is who we're specifically speaking to, because you say you're all things to all people, but I imagine within Orkney, you're something very specific to a subset of people, because I know Orkney residents are very creative, but I'm sure they're not all with you. So if you could kind of think through who your target market is specifically, there'll be certain subsets. So maybe it's people who are specifically interested in weaving, maybe it's the younger generation who want to learn, or maybe it's an older generation who feel like they've missed out, maybe it's a combination of those. But if you guys as a team could have a brainstorm about who those people are, and then craft the copy so that it feels like you're welcoming those people. So if it's, for example, my mom was a quilter and she only got into quilting after there were 4 of us, so she only got into quilting after all 4 of us left home, because who has time for quilting when you're looking after 4 kids? So if they're one of your target market, the empty nesters, you would say, do you suddenly find yourself with time on your hands now that your kids have left home and you've always wanted to learn a craft that's traditional to the area, or something like that? So you want to think about specifically who the people are, and they can be different people. You can have a couple of those introducing sentences after each other, but you want to, it's my toddler yelling in the background, apologies. You want to think about who those people are and how they would want to be greeted. So if they walked in the door, if it's a younger generation who are wanting to relearn skills that they feel have been lost, how do you approach them specifically? And so then welcome them and make them feel like they've found home, so that they don't feel like a visitor, so that they feel like they belong and you exist for them. Because the services you're offering are amazing for the right person. And so you just have to think about who that person is and then speak directly to them. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
No questions?
No,
Obviously,
just
if I talk long enough.
In and out.
Then I'll ask you questions. Okay, great. Now we are on to Gulson Estate Trust.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa.
Are you not going to have a wee shot at the Gaelic, Bridget?
My dad is actually Irish, but his Gaelic is not very good. No, I'm not. I was going to try and say something, the 100,000 welcomes. I can see it, I can spell it. I don't know how to say it.
I don't have Gaelic either, don't worry.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I'm Chief Executive of Ayrshire Gousing, Gulson Estate Trust. Gulson Estate is a community-owned estate. It's 56,000 acres. It covers most of the northwest of the Isle of Lewis and the Outer Hebrides. And there are around 1,800 residents on the estate. And I have worked there for 10 years this year. The community bought the estate in January 2007. So in terms of community land ownership. We are probably one of the slightly more mature landowners, but certainly not the oldest. We exist for the community. Our entire purpose is there to manage the asset and to serve the community, and whatever that looks like. And that has taken us in very wide and holistic direction. But it's an absolute privilege to be able to serve the community in this way. We're set up as a charity, and we have subsidiary companies, and we've set up various other companies to take forward developments throughout the period since the buyout. We consult, we listen to what our community tell us, we take action, and we focus quite hard on outcomes across various different things, not just economic, but social outcomes and so on as well, because obviously it's quite holistic and quite wide-reaching what we do. And I hope we would be described as being pretty transformational.
Amazing. There were so many things I loved when I was reading through your site. It also seems like, are you trying to revive Gaelic in your area, or is it really?
No, we have the highest number of Gaelic speakers per head of population in the world, maybe.
That's amazing. Yeah, there's definitely some bit of story there. So what I would love you to focus on is what you said now. We exist for the community. That is such a powerful statement, and it's not coming through on your site. So what happens is you come to the site, I didn't know where to begin, because you're obviously doing so much, and so much that's good for the community. But the trouble with doing so much is that I don't know where to start. I felt like I was getting a bird's eye view of the project, but there wasn't really anything for me to connect to. And so what this is great is that it gives you the opportunity. You kind of want to lead a visitor to your site on a journey. And you want them to start at a certain point and then learn more and more and more about you, so that they can form an emotional connection as you go along. Starting with we exist for the community is definitely the place to begin. Mentioning that you have the highest population of Gaelic speakers is amazing. That instantly makes you able to connect to what kind of community we're looking at here. And then you've got that slider at the top of your website, and that gives you, so at the moment I think you've got recent articles or something, but that gives you the chance to lead a visitor step by step. And so does the way that you scroll through the homepage. So what I would do is chat to your team and say, if someone had never heard about us, it's the first time looking at Golden Estate Trust, what are the 5 things we have to tell them? What are the 5 things that after this 5-minute conversation, 10-minute conversation, 3 minutes scrolling through our website, what are the 5 things they need to know about us? We exist for the community should definitely be number 1. So you only have to find another 4. But what is it that they need to know? And also, who is the website for? So if the website is for the community, is it only for the community?
Well, I guess so, yeah. We have a visitor site that we just launched 2 weeks ago called Visit as well. And we have various sites for various different
things.
Then
it wouldn't be the 5 things that people who are hearing about Golden Estate Trust would need to know. It would be the 5 things that your community members need to know. And so I still think you start with we exist for the community, because that places you so firmly in the center, but then you don't need to, the Gaelic thing can go to the visitor website. You obviously don't need to mention that there. But what is it that you want the visitors to the website to do? So if you want them to read the latest report, or if you want them to know that certain services are available to them, or I saw that on your Facebook page, I think you were giving resources for homeschooling. Like, there are so many services that you're offering, but there's too many at the moment. So there needs to be a hierarchy of content, so that the slider and the top above the fold of your website is giving the most important information. So everyone who comes there needs to know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then after that, you can link off to the other websites, and you can link off to annual reports, and like, that is all still valuable information. But what do you need people to know at the top? And that's what I didn't get a sense of yet. And I think that you guys would be able to figure it out fairly easily. It's just a matter of focusing it and then reviewing it every quarter and saying, okay, is this still true? Are these still the 5 things we need to know? Or maybe you create categories. So there's like an empowerment category and a news category and an application category or something like that. And then you just update them with new articles as you come out.
No, that's really useful. That's actually become quite apparent throughout the current crisis, because we've had to respond quite quickly and update things quite quickly, and it already has, you know, been difficult to not allow that to be lost. So,
yeah, and that's the thing, and it's so funny how also when it's your own website, it's so hard to see the wood for the trees. Like I had my brother's a CRO specialist, which is consumer retention optimization. So he tries to get more people coming to your website, and he hadn't looked at Sweet Life for years, and I asked him to look at it last week, and the feedback he gave me was so obvious. I couldn't believe I couldn't see it, but I couldn't see it because I'm looking at it every single day, and it's impossible to see things sometimes when you're looking at them every day.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
Great, sure. Okay, the Shieling project. I'm almost certain I said that wrong.
No.
You're muted. I don't know who's in charge of mute. Can you mute it? Can you unmute yourself, Sam, or do you need to be unmuted?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. No, you got it right, the Shieling project, well done.
Oh, thank goodness.
Okay, yeah, we are a outdoor learning social enterprise. So we started up in 2013. We've been here on our site, which was totally abandoned since 1968. And with all our groups, our visitors, school children, nursery volunteers, we've built an entire off-grid outdoor centre with accommodation for 36 people and kitchens. We've got, at last count this morning, in fact, I counted in French with the kids that we have 44 animals. So we've got chickens, we've got cattle, we've got pigs, we've got sheep. Basically, we offer a range of educational and holiday kinds of experiences. Ideally, people come for a long stretch of time. They either come and stay here or they come back week on week. And what we're trying to do with folks is just reconnect them with real basic stuff, like where their food comes from and the skills to grow food, and the skills to make things, the skills to make our own cultural things, Gaelic song, story, those kinds of things. Yeah, I guess we're very small and don't have very much money, and probably don't give enough time at all to our kind of online content, and we're pretty sporadic about that. So I think there's a lot of messages we want to tell, but we're probably not doing a great job at it.
Well, I thought your Twitter content was amazing, actually. I wrote awesome Twitter content. So you're doing more than I thought. Will people know what Shieling Life is, or do you need to explain it?
No, I think that's one of the things. Like, you know, the Shieling was where people went. It was like the archetypal sort of summer camp experience, where people went up into the hills with their cattle and lived very simply. So we try and introduce that. There's bits of the website that introduce that, and every visitor gets an introduction to that. But again, it's kind of like some people were feeling like, you know, they've got quite a lot of complicated things to say. Like, I feel like that's quite a complicated thing to say, and we don't often lead with that. We kind of lead with, well, do you want to get outdoors and make stuff and grow stuff, and then we kind of link on to like, well, we have been doing this here in this landscape like this for centuries, and that's where the sort of Shieling story comes along. Okay,
so the main thing I thought was that you've got such good stuff, but it's hidden in too many words. Because I had to go when I read all the way down, I got it's a window onto the past, but being able to look forward to a sustainable future. That is so good. That's solid gold. What you said now about it's a chance to reconnect with nature and to be able to create things, that's so important. Like, that immediately plugs me into what it is that you're doing. And then if you could show the community aspect more, because I think that's part of it. And so I was obviously looking at it as a parent with kids, and the bits for me that stuck out were that your kids are going to be outdoors and learning things, which is so valuable. I watched the video. I thought there was a lot of really good stuff in there. But also that they are learning in community. And I think the biggest fear of parents, and I think just of adults, is that we're all becoming so disconnected. We're all sitting inside individually on our screens and looking at our screens and having our own experience, and then it's all just in our heads the whole time. And what you're offering is the complete opposite of that. So you're offering outdoors, nature, community, no screens, learning lessons through each other, rather than just having an individual experience. But I had to scroll all the way down and read everything to understand that. Whereas I think you could immediately tap into that in the beginning. It could be as simple as, do you feel you and your family are spending too much time on screens? Do you wish that your kids played outside more? This is a solution. They can learn. And then all the things that you put in the video, because I think what you did so well in the video is you connected the tasks, or it was actually the tasks with what they can learn. But people aren't always going to watch a video. And so it's a shame to hide that good stuff only in the video. So if you could bring that out and say, like, they learn resilience through, like, we teach resilience, or kids learn resilience through doing hard things and learning they can do it. And then the other big thing was that you've got a main image above the fold, and it kind of looked like a tour guide. That didn't give me the sense that I got below, because it looked like you were showing things to kids, whereas what they're actually doing is getting very deeply involved in it. So those would be the two things I would focus on. Is we definitely have this pain point, like as a culture, like worldwide, we have this pain point that we are isolated and on our screens too much. You're offering an antidote to both of those. Bring that out, and so highlight the community aspect and tell us straight away what it is you do, like in no uncertain terms, because there is very good stuff, but you've got to read a lot to get to it. And then, like I saw somewhere you were looking for volunteers, or there were new options or whatever. Take that way to the bottom, because the people who are going to want to do that will read all the way to the bottom. Just give us, in the beginning, give us that sense of community, and give us that sense that you found a solution to a problem that we all have.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, the web content and the web design is quite old now, so we're at this sort of stage where we're trying to get together some of these messages and get them more clearly stated, and that it's interesting that the community stuff that you've been doing, talking about there, is really what we're trying to, like, a community of learning is what we're trying to say about ourselves, because a lot of even when they go outdoors, people are sort of put in the little group, right, this is the outdoor experience for the kids who can't stand sitting on the chair in classroom. This is the outdoor experience for the little ones. This is the outdoor experience for these people. Yeah. And actually we have everybody together, all working together, and a lot of those groups can be here at the same time. So that community stuff is definitely something we want to bring out. But no, that's really, really helpful.
I mean, even if you did it, like the quickest fix would be taking the images from the video and putting those into a gallery that you could just quickly scroll through. Because the one that hit me was, there was like a picture of a kid up on a hill looking at two other kids, and it said something about how, like, you have to look out for each other. And I was like, whoa, when does that ever happen in life? That you're like out in the wild open and you have to look out for each other. Like, the stuff you have is very evocative. You're just hiding it. So let us see it, and then but it's good that you don't start from scratch, which is nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, pleasure. Okay, Monroe's Doze.
Hi everyone, my name's Megan. I guess you could say I started a lockdown business, but it's more just giving me the opportunity and the time to focus on my baking and things like that. I've always loved to cook cakes and breads and things, and people always say, oh yeah, you should sell it, but when do you have time to do that when you have a full-time job, So yeah, I just, sourdough, everyone jumped on that at the start of lockdown, so I thought, why not try that as well? I baked so much trying to get it right that I had to give it away because we just couldn't eat that much bread. I started giving it away, it was getting better and better, and more people would say they would like to order it weekly, like kind of like a treat. So I've started it with just at weekends, because I think that's quite nice, something to look forward to at the weekend, a nice fresh loaf of bread delivered to your door. So it's my second weekend just now, so I've been up quite early making bread this morning. It's something, I would love to continue doing it after lockdown. I mean, it's not really feasible right now. I can only cook one loaf of bread in my oven at a time, so that takes a while, but I think it's just allowing me to work on my skills for the future.
Great. I mean, the stuff looks amazing. I was very hungry looking through your feed. I would change sourdough beginner. Mm-hmm. You had that as the first thing you said, and that made me not trust you, because I was like, oh, you're only a beginner. And it doesn't look like you're a sourdough beginner, because I've tried to make sourdough and failed horribly. So I think real sourdough beginners, fail horribly. I think the pics are amazing. And what I loved was also one of them, you said something about how you got a 40-year-old sourdough. How is that
Oh
even
yeah.
possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, how is that possible?
It was gifted to me by a friend. People keep them for years and years. I heard a woman on the radio, I'm sure hers was over 40 years old, and you can just keep them going. You feed them, you can put them in the fridge as well to, like, they go dormant and you don't have to feed them every day.
Okay.
But yeah.
And is that the one that you're using to make your bread?
Both. I'm using my own one that I made at the start of lockdown. So I made my own one, and then I've got that one too, which I've been using to make wholemeal bread from, so I can make white loaves and wholemeal.
Okay. So I was going to ask you, my questions were, oh sorry, we've got an echo now. What sets you apart, and what's your story? But so I think you've already got two things there. The one is that you started during lockdown, which I think is such a great story, because so many of us were just immobilized during lockdown and sitting at home scared. And so the fact that you managed to start something during lockdown is wonderful. And then the other aspect is that I really think there's something really intriguing about this 40-year-old dough. Like there's something, not 40-year-old dough, 40-year-old starter, because there's something that easily sets you apart. There's something quite fascinating about being able to eat something that was started so long ago. So you need to find a way on Instagram, and I don't know if you want to do it through stories or through videos, but just start telling the story. Do you want to keep it to Instagram?
I would, at the moment, it's just what I've got to hand, but I don't know anything about building a website, but it's not something I would write off doing.
I mean, there's no need to. I just think you need to flesh out Instagram then. So what would be good is, you can save stories. So you can save like about me story, and then about my breads. And to me, if you could storyfy sourdough, like that is very powerful. And the cake. So instead of it just being, this is a beautiful picture of a cake, there can be one of those, but then also have a post of who it's for, and ask the people that you send it to if they can take a photo of themselves eating it. Maybe they can even do a video. Maybe they could tag you in a post that says what it was like, because the way that I'm going to feel that it's irresistible to buy your bread or to buy your baked cakes and treats is by someone else telling me how good it was. So it's fairly tricksy, because you can't say like, this is the greatest bread I've ever made, because obviously you think it's going to be wonderful. You can say what makes it special. So I think even the fact that you have a wholemeal and a white option is really interesting. And if I were you, I would be doing a bit like, you can set up your own phone, so you can be taking videos. I would do a video of like taking the loaf out of the oven and then like cutting into it and putting butter on it, like make us almost able to smell how good it is, and show the different ones. So show the wholemeal and show the white, show the differences next to each other, like just really make it as alive as possible. I saw you were making bagels. Bagels are such a schlep. Like even if you just do a speeded up version of each of the steps, like that, I don't know why it's so interesting, but that stuff is interesting. Like I don't want to do it. I'm never going to make a bagel, but I want to watch someone else doing it. And you can get it into like a minute or a minute and a half. But then if someone sees how much effort goes into making bagels, it suddenly makes the eating of the bagel a lot more exciting as well. So that's the one thing I would do. I would look at every aspect of the experience and see how you could bring it to life for people. And then I would also have a saved video about the 40-year-old starter, because that's just a cool story. And it's a cool story, again, it's that same thing I was saying earlier about like who you are to other people. Like if you have friends over for lunch, when we're allowed having friends over for lunch again, and you have a beautiful loaf of bread and you tell them it's from a 40-year-old starter, that is a good story. Like that makes your lunch way more interesting than if you just buy a loaf of bread from the shop. And that's how you'll get customers, is because other people are telling your story for you. So if you have friends, or if you know the people that you're dropping it off, you can ask them to take a photo or a video and tag you in it, or maybe even you can use it on your page. But there's definitely something about other people saying how good your bread is that I think would have huge value. Or other people like biting into a piece of cake, or blowing the candles out if you've made a whole cake, or Like it's all, baking has such happy emotion around it, and you want to try and highlight that as much as possible, and also almost make us able to smell it. That would be delicious.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Sure.
Really helpful.
I can't believe it, guys. How fast do I talk? I think I've done it under time. Now what do we do? Does anyone have questions? Jessica or Expo North come in with questions. I remembered one other thing I wanted to say, sorry, to Joan about the video. You had a lovely warm video of the actual cashmere, but it was right at the top of the page. And if the focus is going to be on sleep now instead of on sustainability, you want that, if you have a video, you want it to be of the happiest sleeper you've ever seen in your life, rather than of what the filling is. I remembered that when I was talking about videos in the middle. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Jessica, what you got?
I thought that was really fascinating. I have a question.
Okay, great.
There's a lot I learned I did not know. In terms of the basic rules of like Instagram, Twitter, even your website, you were talking about like above the fold.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard about that before. Are there any other things that may be obvious to you for beginners that are kind of rules like that about when you're using online things that are pretty basic?
Yes, probably. Great question. Thank you. So the one thing I thought of this week was a lot of people have asked me before when I've done content strategy about which social media platform to use and if it's important to have all of them. I think that if you have capacity and you have a team to sustain all platforms, that's great. But if you are just starting out like Megan, or if you don't have a big team like Sam, you can choose which platform works for you best and then double down on that. So it's important, if you have a website, it's important that your website is fresh and updated, but you don't have to be on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I found LinkedIn weirdly helpful for connecting to people. So I think that's always a good one to have in your back pocket. But Twitter is generally for news and like up to the minute things, less of a community aspect, because something can trend if you have a hashtag, but it's more for like shooting out information and opinions. Facebook has a really lovely community aspect that's surprising. I don't find it on the personal, I never use it personally anymore, but in terms of bringing people together, it has a lovely community aspect. And then Instagram is if you have beautiful things to show. And I think there's a real sense of escapism still in Instagram that we can't find in other social media. And so I think when you have, and actually I think you all have beautiful stuff to show, Instagram is really interesting for that. It also seems to matter less if you have a smaller following to begin with. Whereas Facebook, if you have, I don't know, like it's still, if brands have less than 1,000 followers, they don't feel like they've properly arrived. Whereas Instagram, no one really cares how many followers you have because you're not going to the person's page. It's just magically showing up in your feed. So it's more about what the feelings you evoke are. So Instagram, I think, is really interesting to tell your story because you can do that through beautiful imagery if you have beautiful imagery. And I think most of you do. Trying to think of website basics. If you're doing a video, keep it super short. Our attention spans are all gone to hell thanks to social media. And if you're doing photos, so whatever you're doing, make sure that it's mobile friendly. So make sure that you've optimized your images so that they are mobile friendly. I know a lot about WordPress. I don't know about other platforms, but if you have WordPress, you can just download the free plugins. You can use Jetpack and auto-optimize are the best. But yeah, mobile friendly is important because we do so much of our lives. We live on our phones now. And in general, I would say the world has shifted in the last couple of years to us reading much less than we used to, which makes me sad as a writer. But I think that we still read books, but when we're online, we want short and snappy. We've been trained now to want short paragraphs, like I would say a max of 3 or 4 lines, and subheadings to break up the text. The goal is that when you look at a page, you want to be able to, if you only read the subheadings and the title, you would still have an idea of what the page was about. But subheadings and headings are really helpful actually, because they let people skip ahead and see what's coming. So even if you don't draw them in with the first paragraph, they'll still give you a chance and read ahead a little bit more. Those are all the things I can think of off the top of my head.
Bridget, that was great. And not only that, but you ended exactly at 11. That is so impressive.
Except we started 5 minutes in, so maybe I should have talked for 5 minutes more. I do talk very fast, and I should have talked slow because I have a South African accent, sorry. Didn't think about that.
I think,
but also if anyone has questions, you're so welcome to, like sometimes this stuff needs to sit for a bit, and then you have a question. If anyone does, you're very welcome to get in touch with me afterwards. Jessica can share my details. Trying to think if I have any like final brand stuff. I would say that for people who are in a team, it's really important that everyone in your team knows what your brand story is. So if you can get them together and you talk about, like I was saying, like the 5 things everyone needs to know about you. And then if someone says, what does your company do? You want everyone to have the same answer. And you really want it to be 1 sentence long, if at all possible, because then other people can take that kernel away and tell their friends about it and tell their families about it. And that's how brands spread, is by, it's just so easy to explain. One of the things that can help with that too is if you want to compare it to something. So I was chatting to a guy yesterday who's creating a new diabetes app, and he said he wants it to be the Tinder for diabetics, but without the sexual aspect, which stuck in my mind, and I know exactly what he's talking about now. And so if you can compare it, like when we started Now Novel, our goal was to make it a dot-to-dot for novel writing. And so if you can have a picture that makes things clearer for you too, that also helps. Yeah, I think that's all I got. Any other questions?
Because I was thinking, Megan, like the yeast thing, it reminded me of a pet, you know, like these Tamagotchis, and you looked after them.
Yes.
So, like people would connect to that. This is
it's definitely like I've named both of mine. And my family, at the start, like he's called Dougal, and this wasn't working. And one day I came down, and then he was huge. He like, I don't know, fermented, and he was all big and bubbly, and I was so excited. And then like the next day he wasn't looking the same, and I thought he died. It's given us all a good laugh, so I don't know. I'm glad that other people are interested in that, because I thought people might think I was a bit mad, but
no, but that's, I mean, being a bit mad is part of the fun, right? That's what we want. We want entertainment.
Yeah,
and
no, they're like
little videos of his growth every day.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that'd be very funny. He thought he died. Okay, great. Thank you so much. This is my first online workshop. I was supposed to be coming to Inverness next week. Thanks, COVID, which would have been lovely. But
next year. And I do want to mention too, if you guys found this helpful, or you know other people that might, if we can wrangle Bridget into doing this again, we might be lucky enough to get her to do this in July. So just if you want to follow up about anything too. Bridget, thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And thanks, Exponal, for setting it up.